Welcome to Sun in the Occult, where the hidden, unseen, secret, and sacred aspects of reality is brought forth to the light. You ever wonder why it's so difficult to achieve significant changes in your life? So today I want to talk to you about what are the most effective approaches to behavior modification. Now, if you're like me and so many others that's striving to make positive changes in your life, the reason why it's very difficult to make these changes is because after so many years in your life, you have been exhibiting certain behaviors repetitively over and over again, right? Whether it's your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, belief systems, sabotaging thoughts, and all of these different things, you've been repetitively doing these things for an extended period of time. And because you've been doing these things for an extended period of time, it becomes habitual to where you don't even have to think about the act. When you're in a particular moment, you will naturally respond to your natural behavior patterns. It becomes instinctual and involuntary, right? So the reason why it's so difficult to make positive changes is because most people, right, they go about trying to make these positive changes by investigating and getting into different subjects such as self-improvement, self-development, and self-help. So they'll read a lot of literature on those topics. They'll even consult their therapists, right? They'll even, start following and become students of wise sages and gurus and things of that nature in the attempt to try to make these changes. And the thing about it is, it doesn't make a difference how much knowledge and wisdom that you gain or you learn, whether it's from a book, whether it's from a therapist, whether it's from a wise sage or guru, or wherever, right? The problem that you're having is that when you're taking in this information, you're not able to impress this information into your long-term memory so it becomes a natural behavior pattern, because you're trying to make these changes in the wrong state and level of mind, right? So the real issue is one of memory recall. It's the same example as if a person, that's in school is up studying all night long, 3 or 4 hours studying because they have to take a test the following day. And after staying up all night studying, you've been up for hours studying, so you know that the information is there in your mind. But at the moment in the time when you're actually taking the test, even though you know that you have prepared for it and that information has been going over in your mind for hours and information is there, it's in the recesses and in the back of your mind. So in the moment when you're taking the test, at that particular moment when you're answering the question, you don't have access to that memory recall to be able to access the information that you learned in the time and when you need it. So usually what happens is the information, you're not able to recall it, and then you end up not putting the right answer because you couldn't recall the information until after the test is done, and then the answer comes to when you no longer need it. But guess what? You missed the opportunity and you missed the moment where it was most needed. And this is what's actually happening in your everyday to day life with making changes. The thing is that all this information that you're taking in, but you're not impressing it upon the recesses of the mind, right? So you don't have that memory recall to access that information in the time when you're going through the experience. What's naturally going to happen is you're going to result to your default mechanism and your behaviors that's habitual and involuntary and what's second nature for you. You don't even have to think about it. It's going to be a natural instinct, a natural response on doing things how you've always done them, because it becomes, and it has become, a behavior pattern. So this is the problem that we're having when we're trying to make changes, right? It's a thing of being able to impress the information that you're taking in, whether it's knowledge and wisdom and all different type of principles that you've learned, to be able to have that information readily available in the times, in the moments when you need it, and you display that particular behavior. Now, the reason why this happens is because most people are trying to take in this knowledge and this wisdom and this advice in the wrong state and level of mind. You have to understand that there's different levels to your mind. And so in order for you to be successful at modifying your behavior, you have to understand what is the most impressionable time or state of mind for you to inculcate information and into your long-term memory, and to where it becomes your involuntary actions, right? So what I want to talk to you about is in the way that the mind works. So we have to speak about the brain. Now, the brain emits electrical impulses that fall into cycles per second. Now, those cycles per second is what is commonly referred to as hertz. So there are electrical impulses that range from different cycles per second in which the brain wave and the frequencies vibrate on. Now, I'm going to refer you to this chart here, right? And what you're seeing here, right, that brainwave frequency band from zero, and those electrical impulses that fall into cycles per second, there's a particular range to these cycles. And these are called the different brainwave frequency bands, right? So from the top, the first brainwave frequency band is what we call beta. Now, beta, this brainwave frequency is from 14 to 20 hertz. That's that particular frequency that you're on when you're in the beta brainwave state. Now, the beta brainwave state is commonly known as your waking state. Now, from the time that you wake up to the day in the morning, when you first open your eyes, what happens is the sunlight shines and hits the optic nerve. When the sunlight hits the optic nerve, the pineal gland creates a neurotransmitter called serotonin. And what serotonin does, it gives you the wakefulness, the awareness, right? And so what's actually happening is this is putting you in contact with the outer world or the physical environment, the connection to the senses. So this is basically what's giving you your state of awareness. Now, when you're in this brainwave frequency, right, this is what makes you wake up and become aware and conscious. Now, this is one of the highest brainwave frequencies that you can be on. And the reason why is because when you wake up to the day, you need to be aware of your physical environment, which means that in order for you to operate and function, you need to be aware of your surroundings, which means that you need to pay attention to details. You need to see where you're going, make a turn here, deal with this, or whatever you may be doing, but you need to be aware. So the brainwave frequency is firing at a faster frequency. this is also what is considered the analytical or the critical mind, right? It's the mind of hopes and wishes. And so this is the brainwave frequency that most people are in when they are making these declarations to make changes. They're in their normal waking state, or what we will call the state of consciousness, right? So you see, the beta brainwave frequency band is the conscious state. Now, the next brainwave frequency band is the alpha state. And the alpha state is from 7 hertz to 14 hertz. Now, this is a shift into a lower brainwave frequency. Now, there's a method to actually shift yourself from out of the beta brainwave state into the alpha. Now, one of the most common ways in order to shift your brainwave frequency from beta to alpha is to get into a relaxed state. So let's say, for example, during the day, you may be doing whatever you're doing at work and you're working on a project and you're in a beta brainwave state, and then you need to take a break from that and relax your mind, and then you step off into the lounge or you go into, the employee restroom and you just sit in the room for a while and maybe you play some soft music. Now, when you're doing that, what's actually happened, soon as you stop paying attention to the details, your brainwave frequency actually decreases and it shifts into a lower state. Now, what's actually happening is you're not really paying attention to your outer environment and the details. So it's what makes you relax and the brain frequency shift. Now, another way this happens is, when you're not readily paying attention to any particular details, it's like you could be looking in a particular direction, but you're not focused on one thing in particular. Sort of like if you're looking in a direction, but you're not focused on one thing and you're using your peripheral vision, automatically when you do that, sort of like another example is when you actually daydream, right? Because when you daydream, that's actually what takes place. Your attention shifts off of the particular object or thing, and then it becomes withdrawn from the external into internal. And once it withdraws, the brainwave frequency naturally shifts and it reduces. And then now you're in an alpha state. Another way of actually bringing that same state of mind in is when you actually close your eyes. Because when you close your eyes, what's actually happening, light is no longer hitting the optic nerve. So the pineal gland creates a neurotransmitter called melatonin. Now, melatonin is a chemical that actually prepares you for sleep. So if you close your eyes, the moment that you close your eyes, naturally your brainwave frequency is going to shift into a lower frequency in a lower level state of mind, which is the alpha state, right? So in this particular state of mind, right, this would be considered the creative mind, right? This is the mind that deals with creative visualization, also the imagination. So this mind is more creative. Now there's also another frequency band, right, that comes from 4 hertz to 7 hertz, and this is the theta brainwave frequency. Now, this is the brainwave frequency really that all kids from the time that they're born to around the age 7, that they're in this particular brainwave frequency. This is actually a hypnotic state or a trance state. And this is the reason why kids pick up information and inculcate information much, much faster, right? It's almost like a download. So this is that same brainwave frequency. It's the theta brainwave frequency. So it's sort of like at nighttime when you're in bed and you're preparing for bed and you close your eyes, and at a certain point, what actually happens is your body falls asleep, but your brain stays awake or aware, right? So it's actually when your body falls asleep, but the brain stays aware, right? It's similar to what we would refer to as a lucid dream. So when you're in a lucid dream, you're in a theta brainwave state. There's also, what we would consider the dream state. So the dream state, like I said, the lucid dream, that's the theta brainwave state, which you're going to be much more highly receptive to impressing upon, information into your mind. Now, the next brainwave frequency band is actually delta. Now, delta is when you actually fall into deep sleep. I'm talking about the level of sleep that's when you're not accessing any dreams or anything. You're in a deep sleep where now you have shifted out of the subconscious into the unconscious state where you have no awareness, right? This is a very deep restorative sleep. This is the same brainwave frequency that is responsible for the growth and repair mechanism, right? So this is the time when your body is at rest and it's actually revitalizing and repairing and growing, right? So all four of these brainwave frequency bands, are operating simultaneously at the same time with everybody, every day, even though your brainwave frequency is going to be predominantly on one or the other, right? So even though your mind shifts to all these brainwave frequencies throughout the day, you're either in one of these brainwave frequencies predominantly at that particular moment. Now, this is also like when you think about from the time that we are born, right? So from the time that a baby is born, from that time to about 2 to 3 years of age, the baby is predominantly in the delta brainwave frequency. This is the reason why infants sleep the majority of the day, right? Because infants are in that state, that brainwave frequency state, where their bodies need to grow. So they are in that deep restorative sleep, that brainwave frequency delta. Now, from the time that you're born to the age of 7 years old, you are in the theta brainwave frequency band, right? So all kids from the time they birth to the age of 7, if you notice at that age, this is when kids are most impressionable, right? They say you need to watch what you say around your kids because your kids are like a sponge. That's because they are in a hypnotic state. This is a trance state, right? And so kids are in hypnotic trances, and because their brainwave frequency is in this level, they're able to inculcate information much easier. It's almost like they're just downloading information, right? So this is a trance state that kids from the time that they birthed to the age of 7 is in, right? But these are also brainwave frequencies that we all exhibit, but there's different ways of shifting in and out to these frequencies. The next brainwave frequency is the alpha. Now, from the age of 7 years old to 14 years old, kids are in the alpha brainwave frequency band, right? So this is the reason why younger people are much more creative, and even, kids in these two states where you're dealing with imagination and visualization. So a lot of times, again, kids from the time that they birth to the age of 7 years old usually have some type of fantasy or invisible friend or imaginary friend that they're playing with, because they are in the creative, imaginative, creative mind, right? So these are stages of mind that we pass through from the time that we are birthed and as we grow and develop. Now, from the age of 7 to 14, again, that's the alpha brainwave state. Now, from the time that a kid hits puberty, around the age of 14 years old and above, that means predominantly at that age, you're going to be in the beta brainwave frequency, because you have to be more concerned with the physical environment in the world of the senses, because life is more serious and you have to pay attention and become more responsible. So your brainwave frequencies shift. But these brainwave frequencies are different levels and stages of the mind that we all go throughout our common day. So throughout every day, when you awake, about 4 or 5 times during each day, you actually go in and out of trance states. Right? For example, you ever had the experience where you may be walking down a block, and then out of nowhere you find yourself singing a particular song, and sometimes you might be even singing a certain song that you don't even like, and you ask yourself, what the heck? Why am I singing the song? I don't even like this song. Usually the reason why that happens is because people are walking and they're not really aware of what's taking place on the subtle levels of the mind in their own being, and they are going in and out of trance states throughout the day. This happens about 4 to 5 times during each day you go through these trance states. So if you're not consciously aware of this, you may be inculcating information or download information in moments when you're not aware of it. And that's what usually happens, where you may be walking down a block and you're not paying attention to any particular details, which means your brainwave frequency is shifting into the alpha state instead of beta, and now you're more receptive, and a car could be passing by playing the music in the background, and you are much more impressionable and receptive to picking up that information. And then a couple of minutes later, you find yourself singing that tune, and you ask yourself, why am I singing this? And this is because this is what's actually taking place. You're going in and out of trance states during each day. Now, when you're trying to modify your behavior, the key to it is not to try to make these declarations in your normal waking state, right? Because if you're trying to make these declarations during the normal waking state, that means you're in the beta brainwave frequency, where your mind is really not that impressionable, because you're in your conscious waking state. That is not the time for you to try to learn or take in any information. But this is the common mistake that the majority of the world is making in trying to grow and develop and make changes on a subconscious level. 95% of what happens during each day is operating from the subconscious state of mind. Only 5% of what happens during each day is operating from the conscious state of mind. So you don't want to make a declaration of change during the conscious state, because that's not the predominant mind that's responsible for the events that unfold in your life. And this is the way that you have to learn, or the best way to learn, where a lot of, educational programs today are teaching accelerated learning. And accelerated learning is all about understanding the different brainwave frequencies and trance states that you may go in and out during the day, and you can employ certain techniques where you invoke these states of mind and inculcate information at those moments, so that way you're much more impressionable. So the only way to truly make significant changes in your life is to understand the way the mind and the brain works and the different brain wave frequencies that you shift in and out, and start to implement these things strategically to develop yourself. Because again, what it's about memory recall, right? And so when you impress information into your subconscious mind, what you're doing is impressing it into your long-term memory. And that becomes your mental conditioning and ultimately your behavior patterns, and it becomes involuntary, right? And so now it becomes a part of your natural instincts and behavior patterns, characteristics and traits. So anytime you want to make changes, this is what you got to do. And this is one of the reasons why meditation is important, because meditation is actually the practice of knowing how to shift into these different levels of mind. And what you are supposed to be doing is being able to take in information. So if you're going to read a self-help book, self-improvement, right? These type of books, if you're going to listen to, positive thinking, right? Or you're trying to undo outdated and unlimited beliefs that you may have, right? You want to do these things in a hypnotic trance state where you shift your brainwave frequencies to the subconscious alpha and theta brainwave states. So that way, now you're much more receptive, and you can inculcate that information into your long-term memory, right? So this is very deep, because there's different layers to this, because there's also astrological correspondences to these different states of mind. Because again, like I said, we're talking about theta, which is a dream state. When you're in that dream state, so most of the time at night when you're dreaming, you're highly receptive, where you are very impressionable to take in information into your subconscious state of mind. So this is what you got to learn. And this is the most effective approach to behavior modification. So it doesn't make a difference how much self-help, self-improvement books that you're reading, how many therapists you're consulting, how many gurus and sages, no matter how much knowledge and wisdom that you're taking in. It's good to do that and to learn those things, but you don't want to take that information in during the creative or analytical or critical mind, because you're not going to be receptive to taking in that information and inculcating it into your long-term memory or the recesses of your subconscious. So once you understand this, then you will become much more qualified to make significant changes in your behavior, in your mental conditioning, in your beliefs, right? In your self-identity. This is vital information and very important that most people are unaware of. So I just wanted to bring this to all of your attention, to all my divine beings that's out there that's looking to evolve and to improve and to become a self-master. So that's all I wanted to talk about today and bring you guys this degree of knowledge, because it's very pertinent, it's very vital that you learn this and that you take this in and apply these things to your life. And then all the knowledge and the wisdom and the spiritual principles, you can take these in and you can apply it, so that way you can inculcate that information and make it a part of your beingness. So until next time, I'm going to say Hetep, Namaste, Ashe.